Math 1314, Tyler Junior College, Section 2.4, more about slope, perpendicular lines, Part 2. In the previous videos, we've discussed parallel lines and discovered or noted that they had equal slopes. And more recently, we've discussed perpendicular lines and discovered that they have opposite reciprocal slopes, meaning that if you know one line's slope, then to get the perpendicular line slope, you take the opposite, so change the sign, and you also reciprocate it. So as a fraction, you turn it upside down. Let's take a look at another example. This one's a little bit more, I don't want to say it's tougher, it's just different. Find the equation of a line that is perpendicular to the graph of 3x plus 4y minus 24 equals 0 and has the same x-intercept as that line. And I didn't specify it, but we will answer in general form. A common feature of these write the parallel or perpendicular line questions is usually give me the answer in the same form of the equation of the line that I gave you. So since this one gave us an equation in general form, we'll answer it in general form. So let's think about what we need to do this. As I've said several times in previous videos, when you're building the equation of a line, you typically start with point-slope form. So we need a point and we need a slope. Let's start with the point that we need. We're told to find the equation of a line that has the same x-intercept as this line. And recall, to find the x-intercept, you let y equal 0. Because after all, if you're on the x-axis, you did not move up or down, so your y-coordinate is 0. So if we let y equal 0, we get 3x plus, 4 times 0 minus 24 equals 0. Or we could have just covered thought. Substituting 0 for y will make the y term vanish and leave us with 3x minus 24 equals 0. And frankly, if you don't have to show work and you're just looking for intercepts, just cover and think. If I covered the y because of substituting 0 for y, then I would add 24 to both sides and then divide by 3. I think my x-intercept is 8. But you can also go through the motions, add 24 to both sides, get 3x equals 24, and then of course divide by 3 to get 8. If you're doing problems like this on a test, you should write as much as you can. For the simple reason that if something goes wrong and there's no work, there's no way your teacher or professor could consider awarding partial credit. For example, if this just said, what is the x-intercept, and you said 8, or let's say you said 7 and you had no work to back it up. As a professor, I could not give you any partial credit. On a test, it is in your best interest to put as much information as possible in case your professor or teacher awards partial credit. But no work plus wrong answer equals 0 points. So ask yourself what's more important. The 15 or 20 seconds you would save by not writing this, or the points you would save by writing it and getting it correct. I think it's a no-brainer, but I digress. Our x-intercept is x equals 8, but be careful. We're about to use point-slope form, so we need to look at this as an ordered pair. We just found out that x equals 8, and we started by substituting y equals 0. So the point that we're going to use is 8, 0. But we still need to find the slope. Now we are looking for the slope of a line that is perpendicular to this one. So we need to find this line's slope and then take its opposite reciprocal. So let's begin the path towards finding the slope. 3x plus 4y minus 24 equals 0 is currently in general form. To extract the slope from the equation of the line, you probably want to solve it for y and get it in slope-intercept form. To solve this equation for y, I'm going to leave it on the left side since it's already positive and move the other terms over to the right. That will change their signs. We will get 4y equals negative 3x plus 24 equals 0. There is no equals 0. I was looking up here. 4y equals negative 3x plus 24. And remember, I kind of like having the y positive before this last move because my last move is to divide by 4. If I'm dividing by a negative, that's just more stuff I have to keep up with. The 4's cancel, we get y equals. On the right side, we should probably split it into 2 fractions, although at this point I see my slope as negative 3/4. To complete slope-intercept form, the first fraction would be negative 3/4 x, plus the second fraction would be 24 divided by 4, which is 6, but I don't need that number. The only reason I did this was to be able to see the slope of the line that I started with, and the slope of the line that I started with is negative 3/4, but that's not the slope we're going to use. We need the perpendicular slope, and to get the perpendicular slope, take the opposite, so it will be positive, reciprocal, turn it upside down. The perpendicular slope that we need is 4/3. The point that we need is 8, 0. Now, we haven't built our equation yet. We've simply had to go digging to find the necessary ingredients to build this equation. But here's what I know about the equation I'm looking for. It passes through the point 8, 0, and its slope is 4/3. So now that I have that information, I can build the equation of my line. By the way, as a test question, you would never want to erase your work. Don't make us guess what you did if you're trying to get points from us. So, our point is 8, 0, and the perpendicular slope that we're using is 4/3. So now we just got to get our point slope form. So point slope form is y minus the given y coordinate, so y minus 0, equals the slope, which is 4/3, times parentheses x minus the given x coordinate, so x minus 8, close parentheses. But we're still not there yet, because I did ask for the answer in general form. Remember, general form is equal to 0, everything on one side, no fractions, first term is positive. This minus 0 is ignorable, so it's gone. Over here we need to distribute. 4/3 times x is 4/3 x. And to do 4/3 times 8, you can think of it as 4/3 times 8 over 1, or you can write 4/3 times 8 over 1, and then remember that multiplying fractions is the only thing intuitively correct about them. 4 times 8 is 32, 3 times 1 is 3. Therefore, 4/3 times negative 8 is negative 32 over 3. That takes care of the parentheses. Let's take care of the fractions next. To clear out the fractions, I can multiply both sides of this equation by the common denominator, but the only denominator is 3. That would give us a 3y on the left equals. On the right, the 3 would distribute, but it would cancel the denominator of each fraction. So we would be left with 4x minus 32. And now to get this equal to 0, I need to move everything to one side. But remember, in my opinion, part of general form is to make sure that the first term, the x term if you will, is positive. Since this x term is already positive, I'm going to leave it there and put everything on the right side with it. So all I need to do is empty the left side by moving the 3y over, changing its sign, and putting it where it belongs, which is in the middle. So the 4x stays positive, the 3y becomes negative, and the 32 stays negative. And just like that, there's our equation in general form. If you really want to get super analytical about this, you can start asking yourself, how can I look at two general forms and determine if their lines are perpendicular? Because if you notice, there are some similarities between these two equations. I challenge you to make a conjecture and follow through to see if that conjecture is true. You can do the same thing for parallel lines in general form, but it's a little easier to spot.